Hello and welcome to episode 7 of RaiderIO's weekly No Leaver. I'm your host, Sean, and today I'm joined by the prince of the race to world first, Meeres.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. You looked confused at that name. I'll explain it later, but I think it's fitting. I think you're race to world first royalty, so we'll get into it. Before we do any of that, before we start the key, I have one question for you. Have you always wanted to have a side gig as a food blogger?
Oh, I mean, sometimes, to be honest. Yeah, but it's also, I mean, I really enjoy food in general. Like, I think I spent a decent amount of money on like good food or like quality food and like going out for experiences or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the food blog word somehow popped up. I don't know, it was a few years ago or whatever. Whenever we went to SK and we had Julia as chef and also obviously other chefs as well, helping out and making really good-looking food. Even though some people always disagree, but I mean, hey, they don't know how it tastes. And it was really fun to post it because I mean people always ask what we eat or whatever, and I think it is very worth sharing. Also compared to the past where we had like more scuffed catering, like in the very beginning of the Race to World First, we had catering that was like I mean it was just like some company catering for that normally caters for like 50 people or whatever, and then they also brought us some food, and we had a funny story in Germany where we got potatoes and mushrooms swapping every 2 days. And at one point, Logok asked, please, no mushrooms today. And the catering company answered us, yeah, no mushrooms today. And then all meals had mushrooms. So there was some good stuff in the past. And now we obviously upgraded very heavily with SK taking care of the catering for us or the food in general.
I love mushrooms. There's something, I don't know. I think mushrooms are fantastic. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't mind them. I mean, if you eat them too much, though, then I'm probably mind them most of the time.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, we're going to get rocking and rolling. So for those of you who are here for the first time with us, Weekly No Leaver is an interview where we run a key. We do a Weekly No Leaver with a guest, and that is what we're going to do now. We're going to be running a plus 12 gambit. So let's hit a quick ready check. And while the team's getting ready to go, we have double cat action, and our hunter has a bunch of cats because we know you love cats. I'm sure we'll talk about that soon.
Oh, is that the idea behind the group comp? Oh,
yeah, I was like, how many cats can I jam into this gambit?
I see. That's quite smart, yeah.
A lot of cats. Actually, let's talk about your cat right now. How much bigger is that going to get?
Oh, the cat. Okay. I mean, the cat, I think they have reached the end state or whatever of the cats, yeah. I mean, they are nowadays, how's it called? They are, like the one cat we got that is a little bit more the chunky one, yeah. They're called Fini. She is, I mean, we got her very early on when she was like, I think a year old, around that. I mean, it's my parents' cats, right? So I'm not 100% sure about the dates or whatever, how old they are, but we got her quite early on, and she was really thin in the beginning. Like if you look back at the pictures now, I would say it was quite, she was quite thin, and I mean, she just enjoyed the food too much, yeah. And yeah, now she's a little bit more of a chonker, but she's having a great time. Yeah, I can say that much.
Listen, I can relate. I also enjoy food quite a bit, so no judgment here.
No, it's also great because she's the only cat that just asks for food every time, and then she actually eats like a lot more than the other cats. Because normally cats stop eating food when they're done, right? Kind of like in comparison to I think dogs just most of the time just eat all the food that they get, right?
Yep.
I think there's some like obviously always some outliers or whatever, but that's kind of the norm. And cats have the opposite. They have cat food all the time, and they don't eat it. But she does quite often eat most of the things that are being placed for her specifically.
Ah, I like that. Let's talk Warcraft. Meeres, you're obviously one of the most well-known raiders on EU in the world. And I want to know, can you remember your first end boss kill in a raid?
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course. Like, okay, I'm actually no. Two sides to the story. Number one is that I started playing when I was really, really young, like with my dad. I owned my dad's lab basically in Classic. Well, I mean, I had an account. I didn't actively play. I was sitting on his lab, and he was just playing basically. And I also got my character back in the days, and that character also did get carried to Molten Core in the past in Classic. But obviously, I cannot really remember any of this. This was a few years ago at this point, right?
Yeah.
But then obviously afterwards I was playing at some points, and then I also quit a little bit during Mob, sadly. Yeah, now looking back at it, I mean, Mob was a good time, right? But I did kind of quit for League of Legends. Yeah, not a good arc, I must say. I would not recommend playing League if you value relaxed gaming, I guess. But yeah, I was playing League back then, and then after Mob, kind of right towards the end, I started playing WoW again, and I joined a friend's guild, like from my dad. A friend was still playing. I joined the guild there, and they were like World 5000 or whatever, and I started progressing high mod with them. Yeah.
Nice.
So
did you know
that
right
was,
away, like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Oh, definitely not. No. I mean, basically, how it came to be was that I was obviously in school while this was going on or whatever, and I was like casually raiding 2 evenings or whatever, just for fun. And then I was finishing my A levels in Germany. Difficult to say how to compare this with other countries. Many topics have come up or whatever, but it's the Abitur, if people know, I guess, for the German viewers. But it's kind of like A levels comparable or whatever. It's like the base school highest degree you can get. And then I was like, okay, what do I do, I guess? And then there was the option. I was playing in Fetch, I guess, at that time, where I was like, I told my parents I will take 1 year because, first of all, I didn't know what exactly I want to do. That was number one issue, I guess, going out of school. I was like, okay, I will try and make something work with WoW because, I mean, we were world 6th or 7th, I think, with Fetchak. So I was like, okay, let's see if there can be something out of it or whatever. I mean, back then, it is not a surprise. There was a lot of RMT going on as well that I was aware of. And I was like, okay, maybe you can go that route or whatever. But it ended up being completely different. And I ended up joining Method for the Uldir tier. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, Uldir was kind of like the start of the streaming race to it first or whatever, right? And then I kind of started playing exactly when streaming race to it first became the big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't stream my first race or whatever. I was nervous as fuck as well. And how's it called? I also had my birthday on the world first goon kill that we had. Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting story or whatever. But to cut it a little bit more short is that obviously we got paid the method back then, like a very little amount, but we got paid to play. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Let's see if this can continue into more or whatever. And I mean, now we're here, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So
I like that. So that story, that old year story, and I have to admit, chat, I have heard that story before. But that is why I sort of refer to you as the prince of the race to world first. You were there for that first race when it was streamed for the first time. So like the modern race to world first, as many WoW players, it's the only way they know it. You've been there through the whole thing. How has it changed? How has the race since, from 18-year-old Meeres getting his first world first, how has the race changed up to now?
I mean, I think the race itself has definitely become more degenerate, I guess, if you could say it like that. And definitely more try-hard. Also, of course, a lot more money backing the situation, a lot more opportunities, like going to proper venues, getting outside analysts that are being paid, having a proper production, like not from home production or anything, right? Many things have changed with all of these opportunities that have come up. Mm-hmm. But I think it depends from my personal player standpoint. It has changed a lot because now I'm obviously more involved in terms of like the guild management, player management as an officer in Echo and doing all those things basically, while Roger and Scribe handle all the business-related things to Echo, right? Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of things to do and a lot of things that I would say were not in my initial idea of trying to play the game, but also go kind of in what I wanted to do initially as IRL work, let's say, I guess. So I'm kind of happy about it as well. Yeah.
Okay. As the race is growing, obviously there's more competition. We've got 3 teams vying for it. But how is the health of the race to world first, would you say? Like, is 3 teams enough? Is there any concerns over the future of the race with so few teams like being involved?
I don't necessarily think the health of the race is per se in danger or whatever. I think 2 teams is of course always little, let's say. Mm-hmm. But obviously competing in the race is very, very difficult. And I think anyone interested in the race or whatever knows how difficult it is for teams to find people that want to play. that and how get this whole thing going or whatever, and also obviously compete on a level because you're competing against people that have been playing this for endless years at this point, right?
Yeah.
But I think I'm more concerned about the next expansion because I don't exactly know how the race will play out as well.
Right.
Because of the staggered release of the raids, which makes like regardless of like how's it called, global release or whatever, it also makes many things weird for, let's say, production reasons and whatever for both guilds, I would say. I mean, maybe Liquid is okay with making a production for like 4 weeks or 5 weeks or however long it will go, right? But I'm pretty sure that Echo does not have the funds for it. I mean, maybe I'm getting surprised by this, but I don't think so, at least, to have a production and a race for this long going. And I think that's a little bit of an issue, I think, because the race also lives from the production, having people on site, the casters. Like, it gives a very different dynamic to the race, right? Where if everyone is just at home, it's just very different, right? As well, from a team perspective. And I think that's a bit sad, most likely, if the race is going to end up like that, where it's going to be just at home half the race and half the race at a venue, or maybe all at home because it's too difficult to finance. I don't know. I think that's a little bit weird, and maybe Blizzard should think about that. But also, on the other hand, they don't really want to be involved with the race, so I have no idea what they're cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, it is an interesting topic. So for anyone who's not aware, like there was three raids being released at the start of midnight, a 6-boss raid and a 1-boss raid on launch after Heroic Week, with the Heroic Week, and then 2 to 3 weeks later, we're getting a 2-boss raid in I think it's the March on Quelled and Ass. Do you think, like, is there a world where you do the first 2 raids remotely and then you get together for the last raid? Like, and how do you determine, like, what what is the world first? Is there going to be 3 race world first?
I mean, I would assume the race with first win will be clearing all raids first, I guess. Which, I mean, there's many things, I guess, that are really weird about this topic, in my opinion, because it raises many questions. How difficult is the 2-boss raid? Maybe if the 6-boss and 1-boss is actually really difficult and the 2-boss raid is like a super pushover, and then potentially NA wakes up, goes in and kills like 1.5, or kills the first boss and progresses the second boss to half. And then EU wakes up and we're like, I mean, guys, that's pretty impossible to catch up on, for example, right? That is a very bad scenario. I would assume that won't happen because, I mean, Blizzard knows the tuning as well. They are quite smart in that regard in recent times. But yeah, I think it's quite difficult to say because obviously Heroic Week is also very boring to watch as a race in general, but it will be very important. And if the raid is not that difficult, the 6-boss plus 1 boss, then it will also end up that, for example, we will clear it in a few days, right? Great.
Yeah.
But what will happen afterwards? Yeah, you don't want to hear it, but afterwards will happen that we're doing mythic splits for 2 weeks and just gearing our characters to have full biz gear for the 2-boss raid. And I don't know how Blizzard is going to tune those 2 bosses to be like to counter the degeneracy that the race to our first teams will probably push into that raid. So any normal guild doesn't go into this raid and just wipes on 40% end rage or something. Because if we would want to, and we have 3-4 weeks time, I'm sure mythic splits, generating almost full mythic gear on every character, can be possible in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, no normal guild can make this happen, right?
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Difficult to say, I guess. This whole race, I think Blizzard needs to give a little bit more details on how exactly it works and what is happening. I hope that will happen at one point at least.
Yeah. Let's talk about details a little bit. I'm curious. This is something I've always been curious about. I've heard rumors, and maybe you can't talk about it, that there is a Race to World First Discord where the Blizzard team gives maybe not a lot of detail, but some detail to the actual teams competing in the Race World First on timings of like maybe nerfs and stuff coming. Is that real? And
no, yes, there is a. I mean, it's also obviously the Discord you can speak about or whatever, but things should not be like leaked or whatever out of this Discord. Sadly, it has happened in the past, and I think Blizzard was not happy with it, and that's why they also stopped posting some things, I think. But basically, how this Discord works is that the top 5 guilds, I think, or 6 guilds are in this Discord, basically. Not necessarily only Race to First contenders, but also guilds that might be going and gonna progress the boss. And Yeah, and they will be posted if, for example, there will be a nerf coming, and then a few hours before they post that the nerf happens, or they just don't post that it happens, and they just post, oh, this is getting nerfed, or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course on this Discord there is many ways we can like report things to Blizzard, let's say. But most of the time, obviously, we will not get an answer, and potentially it's getting fixed. Maybe they read it, we don't know. Yeah, it's most of the time just a feedback line for Race World First guilds to give Blizzard feedback, but not really a communication line in that sense, I guess. Yeah, it's more of a, we can type something and maybe they do something, maybe they read it, we actually don't know. So
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of for them like an information thing, which I think is really nice, and it's also good for them, because we obviously report a lot of things like exploitable things and degenerate things like, I don't know, farming endless amounts of these Diablo event boxes for Velostones. We reported it, and then it got fixed. I mean, I don't know if
Nice.
it got fixed because of us or not. Who knows? But we reported it, and then a week later it was fixed because they also obviously don't want like crazy things in the game where the rest of first guilds have a high chance of figuring out all the things that are maybe not the most fun but quite efficient. So that's one thing, I guess. Yeah.
Do I have you to thank for the seed nerf in a Meeres cell?
No, I don't think that Discord existed at that time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll thank you anyway.
No problem.
I love that. So you mentioned, you're an officer now in Echo, and there's a lot of challenges I think that come with being, in charge of a Race to World First guild. What are some of the biggest pain points maybe in managing a roster and competing at the highest level?
I mean, I think pain points is of course a lot of things in game, like deciding on how many characters people play, deciding on what people play. This is not solely my decision as well, of course. Like for example, who plays what going into the race, or which classes could be interesting or whatever. This is a overall decision of the officer team, let's say. But all of these things are kind of like very difficult, and a lot of like gambling as well, let's say, in terms of what is good or whatever. But I think when it comes to like managing or whatever, what is a lot of times the job is kind of like getting all the individual people together on the same page and like explaining everything and like leading the meetings, making a nice schedule, and kind of aligning with all the different people, because it's not like a normal company, let's say, where everyone kind of knows what's like working on a project, for example, right? Like people are streamers, they potentially work, they have other things to do IRL, they might be doing many things that have nothing to do with the race or whatever, and everyone is a completely individual person that has like only playing the game as a job on the side sometimes as well. I don't know how to say it as well, I guess. It is not always the easiest to get people together at the same time, same page as well, right? Even though we are Race to Our First Guilds, many people have different things that they're doing. I think it's most of the time also the streaming world that is has kind of changed a lot here, yeah.
Right.
And everyone wants to have to, like everyone is streaming, has a different schedule, is maybe doing different things or whatever. So, yeah. That is a big challenge, I think. Just managing the overall aspect of players playing the game, for example, yeah. Yeah.
That's, you do a great job of it. How do you... I mean, you're doing something right, obviously.
I mean, I hope I'm doing something that is decent, at least. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That's,
Do you have
that's
any
my
like
goal.
formal training in like business management or any leadership courses or anything, or is it all self-taught?
Nothing. I would love to. I mean, this was kind of the thing I wanted to, or I tried to study as well at one point. Like my IRL job that I wanted to do, if it wouldn't have worked out, is kind of business management. And like esports management or team management, kind of any of those departments, I guess, right? I don't know. There's many people that work in these jobs. They don't really have formal training in these things, and it's often self-taught, especially in esports, right? But yeah, so I'm kind of happy because this is kind of what I wanted to do either way, and now I'm just got a self-taught experience over many years.
I like that. And you're getting just better at it every year. How do you handle?
I mean, I hope so. Yeah.
You definitely are. From the outside looking in, I can say with certainty.
Yeah, I think overall the whole officer team and everyone in Echo or whatever, like, I mean, everyone's trying to improve every year, right? And it's also the competition like makes you strive for improvement, right? That's always the thing. If there would be only one team playing a race for first, I think the race quality would be very bad compared to now.
I agree. It would be horrible for the viewer and for the race itself. You get stagnant, right? You rise to the level of your competition.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's sort of talk about that. You mentioned how everybody's trying to get better every tier. How does that process look? Like, let's looking at Manaforge Omega. How will you go back and assess, how you did, what changes you make, what things you may have done differently? How does that process look?
I mean, most of the time, it's a thing that we have obviously many notes written down from players, from us, from basically everywhere, right? We're gonna, like, the guild is speaking with everyone, every player, to hear their opinion and feedback on topics. And basically take away from that. Plus, the officer team, of course, has their own feedback that they have noted down over the course of progress, for example. But also just things that we obviously have noticed that are going wrong, as an example, right? Like, we have seen, there was a VGARA issue on XYZ boss. This took 4 hours to solve. Why, I guess, right? Or why was the prep not better on this boss? Like, why are we struggling? Or other examples that actually did not really apply this tier, but other things that might apply is an example where we're like, okay, we had the plan on PTR that was the following, and we kind of went into the boss without trying the plan we had on PTR. And then in hindsight, obviously it's always easier to get these things in hindsight, but in hindsight, the plan was actually the best thing we could have done, right?
Right.
And then we kind of try and backtrack and find out why these reasons happened or whatever. But a big thing as well that maybe people always tend to maybe not realize or whatever, the race is not necessarily only about, I might have been playing bad or play good. Let's say, as an example, like, for example, I think we did play quite well this year, and I think most people would agree that many things were really good. Of course, some things can always be improved. But one big thing about the race is always the outside team, the VGARAs, analysts, and basically technology around the game to help us analyze things that might not be as obvious. That is very, very important. And there's many failures in technology and endless opportunities in improving technology as well. So many improvements stem from how do we make this tech better? How do we get outside analysis better? How do we fix all these things? Because after all, playing the game oftentimes is not the end. Or it's not like 80% is not playing the game. It's more like 50, 60% is playing the game, and 40% is the prep and analyzing what is going wrong and right. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any concern with the upcoming removal of combat add-ons on how the race will look? And are you guys hoping? Are you hoping, you personally? I guess not. I don't want you to speak for the org on this, but are you hoping for a world where there's less required external, or are you hoping that we come up with like degenerate overlays?
I'm definitely in the more extremist side of no add-ons. I would love no add-ons, yeah. Even though, of course, like, to be honest, from a personal business standpoint, as a Twitch streamer or whatever, it's maybe not the best because, of course, having UI subs and whatever is a good income for many people. But obviously, maybe it's still the case with some edit mode thing, or like depends on how much Blizzard does or whatever, right? But it will probably be less. But I do definitely think that add-ons in general have come to a way where Blizzard also knows, man, like Fractilus is the prime example. They knew exactly that this boss will be completely trivialized by a VGARA. And I mean, to be honest, I don't know why they made this boss like this. But also on the other hand, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they were just ready to see what people will cook up, I guess, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I would be very happy if Blizzard removes everything, but I'm also on this side where I really hope that they do have proper alternatives ready. As an example, like the things they've shown already, DBM and or bigwigs, right? And like nameplates or whatever. And I really hope they take very high inspiration from Plata and other add-ons that are really, really good and make their own stuff. Yeah. Because I think many things, especially nameplates, details, boss mods or something, there just needs to be in the game. Otherwise, everyone is in shambles. If there's not some crazy complex VGARAs that solve everything for you or have like 80 conditions with different glows or whatever, I think people can live with it personally. And it will also be completely fine for the player base. But if they remove too many things and make too many things way too complicated to do, I think it will be a very big issue. Yeah.
Yeah. I even at a bare minimum, as long as we can get like the ability to just adjust the appearance of some of their stuff.
Yeah.
I gotta find my star. Fun fact, I normally tank and I'm still wearing my brand trinket. So
it works, I think, as a DPS to some degree.
Huge value from the brand trinket in this.
But to come to the second part of the question or whatever, basically for the race, I think in general it sounds very interesting because many times, I mean, if you watch the race from a player POV or if you hear some people speak about the race, the amount of times the word reminders and stuff comes up is very high. And I think in general, it will shift the mentality on how people play bosses and how people remember things a lot if there's no reminders. For example, like if Blizzard gets rid of reminders and we can't have like easy reminders anymore with weak arrows potentially, or like some easy text reminders to do certain things like stun, interrupt, like do certain things or whatever, I think we require a very different skill set from the player and also from the outside than what we have currently. Because currently we make like a sprint reminders, personal reminders, like tactic reminders or whatever. And all of those might fall away, meaning that players might need to remember to do certain things alone, or we need to have certain players call for different things. Let's say healer cooldowns is a good example. In the past, we had people call healer cooldowns, right? And they were outside and calling, oh, we need to AM here, rally here, whatever, right? All of those things. And now this is all just gone. There's no talk about it anymore. And people follow weak arrows and reminders. But this might not be the case anymore in the future, which might shift again that you want to have someone on the outside calling it, or you want to have people just remember, I guess, what to do as well. And I think that will be a little bit shift in many players' mentality, because it is very different in raiding to M+, for example. Like in M+, you don't make reminders for everything going in the dungeon, right? Like you are not going around and making in every single dungeon, oh, here we need to dodge these fragments, who soaks, who goes into what quadrant, right? All of those things in M+, especially, are not really as categorized and easily adjustable as in the race, where most of the time you just remember an M+, or it's a pack, and you just ping and you kind of know what's happening, right? And I think that will translate a little bit into M+, but also just knowing the overall flow of the boss and stuff will probably help a lot compared to the past, yeah.
I like that.
It
Is
will
there
be quite
a world
interesting, I think.
where you shift out of playing? Like obviously you're one of the best tanks in the world, but is there a situation where, you know, if it requires more calls, do you see as a world where you shift into like a 22nd or 23rd man role alongside Sprite?
I mean, I think in theory it will always be better. I think it has always been on the table that, to be honest, anyone in the officer team that is responsible for working on things should not be playing, because fact is, like, it is always the best, as sad as it is, right? But I don't think I want to stop playing, no. I don't think it's a thing I would want to strive for or I would want to do in the future. Yeah.
Okay. We don't want to see you stop playing. I need you in that raid, sir. We need that. We need that content. We just blasted this +12, by the way. I feel like I was hard carried. We're not going to look at the damage meters. Those aren't important. But if you have a single button rotation on Feral Druid, apparently isn't the play.
I mean, a multi-dot class always is a bit scuffed, I think, but yeah.
Machete Claw, thankfully carrying that feral badge for us in this dungeon. If you have a few more minutes, I'd love to just keep chatting.
Of course,
I have a couple more questions. A lot going on. So we talked about the raid a lot. We thought, you know, obviously we talked about how skilled you are at this game. You have like 10 MDI wins. I think it's 6 MDI, 4 TGP, multiple race to roll first wins. Which win, either MDI or race to roll first, means the most to you?
That is a very difficult question. I mean, I don't know what means the most exactly means to me, I guess. I would say most memorable maybe is a better way to say. I think the BlizzCon MDI was probably the most memorable thing for me in terms of the MDI department, just because, I mean, playing on stage was insane. It was the first time we played as a team on BlizzCon together. Like, we were previously on Sydney, right? But Sydney was a little bit scuffed. Like, it was a small stage, no big crowd, right? It was just the casters and like some people from production. But I think BlizzCon was insane, in my opinion. It was a really very exciting thing. I mean, at this point, many years ago, many years ago. And for the race, I think the most memorable one for me was probably Firak or Jailer, but probably Firak. Firak was a very crazy boss, and I think if we would have won this race, it would have definitely been a high contender for also very memorable race. Because I think races that come down to both teams playing really, really insane, and you pull at the same time, and you kind of have like everyone wiping low percentage or whatever, it definitely gives a extra good feeling to the race if you then win, or also a worse feeling if you lose, I guess.
Right.
Always comes down to both sides, right? No, but I think those races were really insane. I think Jailer was just I think Jailer, or like Sepultura in general, was probably the best raced toward first guilds. Yeah, just because of how crazy every boss was. Like starting from boss number 7 to 11, every boss was just a machine deleting you for many weeks, and I think that was crazy. And it had the best, or in my opinion, the best tank race toward first boss that ever existed, and it was Raglan. So I think that plays a little bit into that race as well for me.
Raglan over Painsmith? Painsmith is my favorite boss to tank.
I think Painsmith was an amazing boss, but from a tanking perspective for Race Toward First, Raglan was by far the best in my opinion. It was an insane boss to play. He was basically one-shotting you almost all the time. You had to play really insane. The movement had to be... I mean, I don't know. I think overall the boss was just really insane to play.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. I want to ask which loss hurt the most, but before I do... You mentioned, how when the two teams are going head to head, how great it feels. So I'm going to ask you this question. I know you're going to give me probably a very political answer. Is there a world where you think global release affects the outcome of some of these races?
I mean, I think it definitely has an impact to some degree. I think it's not an easy question to give a yes or no to this. I definitely think global release affects the race, 100%. I think last race, it gave a good example. Not that the outcome of the race would have changed, by the way, but as an example, last race, we were progressing Nexus King, right? And it was unkillable for us. We didn't have 5 more item levels or whatever, but we kind of had the boss progress. We reached end range a few times. We played really insane at the boss, but there was no way of us killing the boss. While at the same time, Liquid already woke up, was doing splits, and was about to kill the boss, right? Where with Global Release, this obviously wouldn't have happened, and we were ahead by killing Fractillus early, had more progress on Nexus King, and if we would have potential, of course, this is all theoretically, right? But there it was kind of more obvious that Race Toward First was making a difference because we were progressing an unkillable boss, while the other guild was preparing to gear up to kill that boss and progress the last boss, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, I think it's very difficult to say. I think there's many opposite sides here. Some say it makes no difference. I think that is probably a lie if you look at the overall situation of how it goes. But sometimes it makes probably no difference as well because, I don't know, NA has 8 hours maintenance. This time they had like no maintenance, I think, almost.
Yeah.
But also on the other hand, obviously we gain from having looking at early bosses, but on the other hand, we also catch up early in the raid, and then obviously global release would be amazing. And I think the main issue for global release or whatever is actually the second week, especially if the second week is a very big gear jump. I think that is always a thing that is forgotten. Like everyone is like, oh man, the beginning or whatever. At the beginning, it's okay. Yeah, we gain something. From obviously starting a little bit later, we can see tactics, we catch up. But then if you catch up and you're at the same level, and then the reset rolls around basically, then the overall of us catching up most of the time fades away again because they obviously, as example, this race, they can start prepping for the bosses while we are still playing an unkillable boss, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very difficult. And I think the biggest thing as well after analyzing this tier a little bit is that it's kind of crazy how much item level we gained this tier. I think was the most ever, to be honest. And that obviously makes it even worse to progress a boss, let's say Nexus King with 704. And then you actually, to be honest, I didn't have it on the scope that we would gain 5 or 6 item levels on average. That was kind of crazy, by the way. But we gained so much item level, like everyone in the raid, that all the bosses just became so trivialized as well. You're like, what is going on? Yeah, like we killed Fractillus, we had like some guy die here, there, like, it's fine, right? Like the boss just died, and it was kind of crazy to see, to be honest. Yeah.
What does that do to the team's mental, knowing like you're progressing a boss you can't kill, and you're watching your competition like blast through a reclear? Does that that has to have some impact, right?
It depends. I think the reclear doesn't really matter too much. I think. I mean, I can speak from my own POV and how the team feels from my POV, not from what people feel, of course. But from my POV, the only thing is that when we start from behind in the first week, it is really depressing a little bit because you obviously need to catch up. But then when we catch up, obviously then everyone is Omega hyped. For example, when we killed Fractillus, it was kind of like the turning point of us last year, or also the previous year, it was Sprocket Monga Loggenstock. Yeah, Loggenstock was he called. Like he is like when we kill those bosses and we basically are on even playing field again, or we even overtake them, let's say, that obviously does a big mental buff, because then we're like, okay, we're on the same playing field now, we still have bosses to go, which means we can definitely win, right? But if you, for example, end up in a way where we reach the last boss and we're still behind, the mental is definitely getting taxed more and more every boss we kill, I think. And we're behind because obviously the race becomes shorter and shorter, the possibility of us catching up. So it's very, very difficult to say. But I think the mental is great, especially if the vibes in the team are good and we catch up. I don't really, like, especially from my POV, I think I feel really good about it. But obviously the other points I mentioned earlier still stand, that it's sad to see how it works out, I guess, going into the reset weeks, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that that's sort of like a staple that the team does or the leadership does to lift spirits, to keep people from like feeling too down? Do you guys have anything, like any rituals you do?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, obviously we have some motivational speeches from time to time. I don't think anyone is crazy motivational speaker. We need to take some courses, I think. Sometimes I've been saying this for some years at this. We need some motivational coaches or whatever to tell us how to hype up the team sometimes. Yeah. But I think generally it's also the team in itself that needs to have a good vibe, needs to be hyped themselves, and then the vibes just in general carry a little bit the situation. And I think this time it was really insane. Like everyone was saying that from our side, that was really nice. Everyone had a lot of fun. And I think then it always goes in a good direction, I guess, yeah. And then splits always tank it a tiny bit, because splits is always very horrible. Right. But I think everyone knows about it, so it's okay.
Yeah, I like that. I have multiple years teaching leadership in the Royal Canadian Navy, and one of those topics we cover is how to motivate troops when they're feeling down and in hard situations. So if you need somebody to come give a talk, let me know.
I mean, I might reach out, because that's one of the things. There's always also so many different facades where, like, like, I don't know, motivating people is like, yo, we're ahead. Or, I mean, probably people know, I guess, right? So it's like, okay. I don't know. It's always difficult to say, yeah? Like, obviously, they know we're ahead. For example, like, we killed Foxella's world first. And then to say, guys, I mean, we're ahead. I mean, is it motivation? I guess killing the boss was probably enough motivation, in my personal opinion, for example. So, I don't know.
I love it. Okay, let's talk. I do want to ask, because I know it's a big question is, which ones were the most memorable, which ones were your favorite. But I also like to know which losses hurt the most, because I'm like an emotional vampire and I want to feel this. So which losses for you were the ones that like really stuck with you and hurt the most?
I think, I mean, in general, obviously I remember all losses, let's say, but I think the loss that tilted me the most, where I was also considering, like, I don't know, not playing, I think I tweeted about it at one point or whatever, was really Avarus. Yeah. This was such a horrendous race. Like, we prepared so much, and it was so crazy how much we did, and the involvement of everyone, like, everyone was so dedicated. We played, like, I don't know, everything was so insane, and then just to end up with, like, the boss dying in 2 or 3 days in Mythic was... It was such a disappointment. Not even necessarily that say that we played worse, better, whatever. I think that's out of question. It was mainly that we prepared for a race for 5 to 6 months. We played so many characters. We put so much work into preparing everything. We had so many great things. And just everything to be ending after like 2 days of splits and 2 or 3 days of Mythic proc at most was... I was so crushing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That was really, really bad. Like, and even if we... Like, obviously, if we would have won, I might not have the same opinion. Obviously, right, I think. But in general, even if we would have won a race that is like this easy in 1 week, I don't think it's happening anymore, because Blizzard is tuning around it nowadays. But I think it should never be the case again, right? Like a race like Sylvanas was on the edge, but also was very long ago at this point. So yeah, I think that there's just 1 week races are just not made for the race to at first anymore, just because we spend the first half week of the first week doing splits, doing other preparation, and if then the bosses end up being this easy for race to first terms, I guess, that they will die in 2 to 3 days after all this work that you put in is just really bad. Yeah. But I don't think it's happening anymore from what I've seen. Like, Blizzard's tuning has been really insane. Like, last year tuning was crazy, by the way, what they did in the tuning department, to be honest.
Almost perfect. Like, it was almost the perfect raid. It was crazy. No, I do love that you mentioned Sylvanas. That's my favorite end boss of all. Like, you guys just found 5, like, the whole planet was like, there's no way they can do this, and you just found 5% damage somewhere.
I mean, Savannah's was a really insane boss. I think we cooked really good on that one. We also played really insane. So
Yeah, that was great. Okay, so I have 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. I'll let you get on with your day. I know you're super busy. So crazy success. You've been successful as a player, MDIs, TGPs, race to world first. You're a successful coach. You've 6th manned MDI. Like, you've done all of this. How do you stay hungry?
I don't know. I just love playing WoW, I guess. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, that it's all coming down to that. Like, obviously, it's also my job nowadays with streaming, especially like being my main income or whatever. Like, so obviously, I have to sometimes cook up some extra content or whatever that to keep me busy. But most of the time, I just do really enjoy playing WoW, and I do just enjoy the race and preparing for it and just doing all those things. And if I wouldn't enjoy WoW, I wouldn't be sitting here doing all these things, I guess. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. That's a great answer. And the last one, sir, is there anything coming up that you want to tell us about? Any secret Meeres projects that we can expect in the future?
Well, nothing much, to be honest. Like, I will not be doing anything MDI related. People might not know or whatever, but I'm not doing anything MDI related. No 6-man, nothing. I have nothing to do with anyone this time around, which means there will be watch parties, I guess, which are always fun, to be honest. Watch parties is always a 5-hour session of talking about the game for 30 minutes and then talking about random topics for 4.5 hours. So that's always great. And then there's also, there might be 2 small IRL streams from my Japan trip coming up. Yeah. But they will be really scuffed things. And I don't even know if they will happen, but we will see.
Okay. Is there any, Blizzard, if you're watching, can we get Meeres on the desk for the MDI? Is that something we can make happen?
Oh, I don't know. That might be probably too short notice. Yeah, I would assume so. Like, it's not that easy, I would assume, for them. But yeah, I mean, hey, if Blizzard's what, I'm down to cast to like one guest match or whatever. I don't know if they can arrange these things, but I would be down. Yeah,
yeah, like a special bring them in analysis of tanks. I'm signing up for that. Let's get.
Yeah. I'm also done.
Yeah, that's great. Sir, thank you. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to run this, to carry me through this key, and for chatting. I always have a great time when I get to talk to you. You're genuinely one of the nicest people in the WoW space, and I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the comment. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's a fun time. I mean, the key was great, by the way. I'm not looking at the damage meter. I'm just looking at deaths. Wait, that's also bad. Okay, never mind. Hey, I'm looking at healing. Okay, I'm looking at healing. Perfect. Yeah.
We'll check healing. Yeah, you're also top on healing. For anybody who's watching, who might be new to Meeres, can you let them know where they can find you?
Oh yeah, I mean, they can find me on Twitch, Meeres TV, and during the race, you can find me on Twitter or X, I guess, with Meeres TV as well. But to be honest, there's nothing happening because I'm not using Twitter anymore outside of the race. So yeah, mainly on Twitch, to be honest.
Perfect. Twitch it is. We'll check Twitch for sure. If you do want to see just a bunch of delicious food pics, so go to his Twitter.
That's true. You can scroll down the last races for food. That's possible.
Yeah, it's great. And listeners, thank you for spending your time with us here in Weekly No Leaver. If you want to race against us in this 12 Gambit, you can find our Mythic Plus replay in the description. You can throw it up and then compete against our times. We did pretty good, so I don't know if you're going to beat us, but you can have a lot of fun trying. And as always, listeners, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.